Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for this live stream event. My name is Rebecca. I'm the event planner of Microsoft Reactor New York. Before we begin, I'd like to share two things with you. So our code of conduct. So Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and our presenters. We encourage engagement in the chat, but we ask that you're mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. This session is being broadcast live to the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. If this is your first time joining us for YouTube, you do need to have an account to interact in the chat. So if you haven't done so already, now is a great time. If you're unable to ask your questions during this session, feel free to reach out to us at the conclusion and we can follow up with our speakers at a later time. This session is recorded and it will be available later on demand, again, on the same YouTube channel you're tuning in from. So today's session. Today we are joined by Rory and Julian, both from Microsoft. They'll be going through hardening Java applications on Azure by using the Zero Trust approach. Today's session is part one of a two-part series. And running through it today, let me bring up the speakers. Here we go.
Hi.
There's Julian. Welcome. And
hi, hello.
let's get Rory up on the screen. There we go. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Rory.
So this session is set to run for about an hour with questions saved for the end. So feel free to share them into the chat, but we'll probably get to them toward the end of everything. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'll let you both introduce yourself further, talk about today's session and everything else from here on out.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Thanks a lot. And well, welcome everyone. So I'm Julien. I work for Microsoft in the developer advocacy organization, and I lead the Java team over there. So I'm a Java developer. And Rory, I will let you introduce yourself.
Well, I work for Julian, but we have a team of advocates that assist and empower developers to be able to design their systems and develop their applications for the cloud, and also to use the Zero Trust approach. So this is a very exciting session that we're going to do here, because Julian has promised me some incredible demos here, and he gave me a hint of it. And if you've seen the Twitter there, I just couldn't believe what he's doing. So you really want to stay tuned for that. Julian, tell me a little bit about what are we going to do today?
So yeah, so as Rebecca said, it's a two-part series. So the first part, we're going to set the stage. And so we're going to talk about security, and to set the stage, what are we going to do? We're going to hack some stuff. So I'm going to take an official Microsoft sample application. We're going to use Log4Shell. Well, Log4j first. So we're going to use Log4j in it. And as you know, there's this security issue that was last month, which is called Log4Shell. And you will see, I will code something totally normal. It will be live coded, but you will see, I won't do anything wrong. But then, of course, I will be I will be able to get hacked using Log4Shell, and we will do that live on a real server in production on Azure. So you will see something which is, I would say, totally normal for a normal person, and you will get hacked really, really badly. So that's how we will start, and then we will see how we can reduce those attacks using two approaches on Azure. Well, so the methodology that we'll use is the Zero Trust approach, but then there are different ways to secure our application on Azure. We will use the two main ones. The first one is Key Vault, which is a specific Azure service to manage your keys, typically your database password, because that's what we're going to hack. And the second thing that we will do is we'll use VNets, which is secure networks. And of course, if your database is in the secure network, it will be less easy to attack it, obviously. But that we will see that next week, because today what we're going to do is code the app, hack it, and then start introducing solutions to it. And then next week we will solve maybe not all of the problems, because you can't solve all of the problem, but will greatly reduce the risk, and you won't be able to hack the database password as easy as what I'm going to do in a few minutes.
That sounds really exciting. I can't wait for that demo.
It's
Now,
fun. Yeah.
next week, we've got the solution. Now, people can follow on a Learn module. And I happen to know the author of that Learn module, Julian Dubois. So we've got a Cloud Skills Challenge. That is the link. We'll put the link through now. And in that Cloud Skills Challenge, you can actually go in and do 3 modules, 3 very quick to use modules. And the last module is Julian's new module that he created that handles Key Vault. Now, we also are going to randomly do a sweepstake with the people who have completed that Cloud Skills Challenge. And you can win a $60 GitHub voucher. And you can get a hoodie or a coaster or a T-shirt. I've just placed an order recently with them, and they just told me now that they're shipping it to me. So I'm very excited. And then, so you can follow on with what Julian is going to show you is bad, but next week we're going to do the solution for that. So I'm really excited to see, Julian, what you got there. And I'm a bit worried about the app. You said it was an official app, though, so hopefully you delete your app and after the session there, and no one really hacks it again.
Yeah. First of all, don't do this at home. We are trained professionals. And most importantly, I'm doing it on the sample app, and I will delete it straight away. So, I mean, maybe I can get hacked in a few minutes. I mean, there are bots looking for Log4Shell everywhere, so maybe we can get hacked very fast. But you will see, I'm doing something a bit, hopefully a bit clever, so I don't get hacked immediately. And then, of course, it will be deleted, so there's no big risk. But then again, if you do this, be careful. Okay, well, let's get started. Let's have a look at my screen, and I'm going to show you the sample app we are going to use. So it's a sample app that was created for this Learn module. Let me just open up my screen here. So this is a Learn module to learn how to use Spring Data JDBC with PostgreSQL. So it's very classical Learn module, one of the Learn modules. Sorry, it's a Microsoft Docs documentation. A lot of people are using that. I mean, a lot of people use Spring Data, a lot of people use PostgreSQL. Again, I'm doing something very natural. And when you do that documentation, it's very well done. I wrote it myself, so it's of course very well done. When you do this, we point you to a sample app that you can use. We're going to use that sample app. So it's really a Microsoft. Here it is. It's really an official. Sorry, this is my fork. This is a real one. Azure samples, quick start, Spring Data, JDBC, PostgreSQL. So it's a real sample app from Microsoft. You can see my name. So I'm the one who wrote it. So I'm not throwing stones to
You're going to break your own app. So this is
I'm going to break my own app. Exactly. Well, there are 2 things to know. Of course, the app itself doesn't have Log4Shell at the moment. It's not using Log4j. It's using Spring Boot, an old version of Spring Boot. As you can see, it's 2 years old. So if I was using Log4j here, I would be using an older version of Log4j, and I would have the bug. We don't have the bug right now because I'm using Logback, because by default, Spring Boot uses Logback, so we don't have the bug. Otherwise, I would have updated it, of course. Then this is a perfectly normal sample app. And well, as you just saw before, so I forked it. So this is my fork. It's public if you want to have a look. And at the moment, I'm on the main branch. So nothing specific. It's, I just cloned it basically. And I'm going to...
We've got a comment. Julian, can you zoom in there? Because there's a lot of people who really want to fork that project.
Yes.
And
sorry,
they want to get the exact text right there. So definitely you want to get that project there.
I'm putting in the chat. Can we copy paste it in the chat? Because I only have access to a private chat.
It's going to be the most popular repo right now. After you've done that, you're going to get so many stars.
Well, just go to my fork, because so on my fork, of course, on the master branch is the same thing as a normal project. But on my fork, I've got branches where I've got the solutions. They're already there if you want to, if you want to cheat. So here you will have the solutions, which is better than the original where you don't have the solutions, of course. So if you take it and if you clone it, which I've done here, well, let's open it with Visual Source Code, with Visual Studio Code. And we're going to do a couple of small things. I mean, I'm going to code like a normal person. Well, first thing I'm going to do is, of course, introduce the bug. So I'm going to use Log4j. Well, a lot of people use it. It's not really a bug. I mean, maybe a lot of people are using Log4j for very good reasons. So that's not really a bug to say I want to use Log4j, but because this is where I'm going to do the issue. So to do that, what I need to do is add a dependency to Log4j and exclude the normal dependency to logback. If you do that, that's the normal thing that you do on Spring Boot. I'm not doing anything weird. I'm just migrating to Log4j, and everything is fine. And so I'm on an older version of Spring Boot. So this will bring, of course, an older version of Log4j. So first thing I'm doing is that, and then I'm going to code some stuff. And honestly, what I'm going to do is totally normal. If you know a project called jhipster, or let me just...
I've heard of this jhipster. One of the authors of jhipster happens to be called also Julien Dubois.
Yeah. I mean, I want to do some advertisement for my own project, of course, but it's also to show that I'm not doing anything weird. What I'm going to code here is exactly what we code in jhipster. It's like the same code as jhipster. So I'm really not doing anything specific for this demo. I'm doing what I would do like all the time. What I'm going to do is, if I go to my app, I would like to be sure. So it's an app that manages to-dos. So it's a simple app. So you can create to-dos and you can list to-dos, like nothing very specific. And of course, when I create to-dos, I would like to be sure that everything works fine. So for this, I'm going to add some logging for that. and
I know which logger you're going to use.
And I'm going to use Log4j for that. So let me just add. That's a Log4j logger. Oh, sorry, I need to import a Log4j on top of it. Let me go there and add it. That should be it. I'm going to use that logger here. I'm going to say log .1 because I want to have a look at what's going on. I want to log my to-do. Awesome. And it's logger. And of course, as I want to have some good data that is shown to me when I log it, I'm going to add here a new toString that is going to, expose the to-do in a nice way. Usually, what I do, so I'm going to just generate this here. What I do here, that's done usually by IntelliJ. So it's like I don't know, JSON-like syntax of my to-do. So basically, you see all the fields, and it's pretty useful. So while I'm going to log the stuff, while I'm going to have a good look at my object, and so when somebody will create a new to-do, well, I will see what's in it, and that's pretty nice for testing and knowing what's happening. So again, nothing strange. Of course, when I do this, I'm going to log some stuff here, which comes from the end user. My users, when they create a to-do, they will send me like a JSON request here with a to-do, and that comes from the user. So maybe they will put some weird data here. That's where log4shell will come in. But let's not go too fast. And I just want to remove the test because there's a test here that's going to annoy us. And you know what to do when you don't want to have tests, you just delete them. It's much easier. So here's my app. It's supposed to work, and I'm going to deploy it to Azure. So let's do that together. Oh, I'm going to show another project I love. It's called Nubgen. Another thing I'm working on, if you want to have a look at it. So what Nubgen does, it's going to take any Java apps. It also works with .NET and JavaScript and so on. It's going to take my app and deploy it to Azure automatically. So, I mean, again, I'm not doing anything weird. So I'm just going to take my command line. And so Nubgen has got a command line. So I'm just going to call it. And it's going to take my app.
What I love about this Nubgen tool, Julien, is it actually makes Terraform easy. And so you can actually get all of your resources through to Azure without having to worry about the lifecycle of Terraform and all of the nuances around that script.
Exactly. It's going to help you a lot for all those things. Like Terraform is very complex if you want to do it by hand, and it's all done for you. Again, have a look at the tool if you want to see how I'm doing it. Just let's say, trust us that it's going to create a good configuration to deploy my application to the cloud. And again, as you can see, it's all my tools, nothing weird, really what anybody would do, or at least what I would do. And so, yeah, by the way, I just created a new branch for doing the demo, because otherwise I would pollute the main branch. So if you want to check what I'm doing, it would be easier for you. So here I'm going to call NewBgen. And what this is going to do is going to scan my app. See, it's a Spring Boot app. It's using PostgreSQL. And it's going to generate a Terraform configuration for it and create everything for me. So what I just need to do now is git add everything and git push it. Sorry, git push on my new branch. And what this has done, now let's have a look in the Azure Portal. If I go to my Azure Portal here, we have a new action, which is just right now. And so what this has done is that it created a new GitHub action. And that GitHub action is doing two things. Is first building my app, so building a jar file. And second thing, it's using Terraform to generate a new Azure configuration for my app. And when everything is good, it's going to deploy everything to Azure. So again, something very, I would say, natural. Let me open up the Azure Portal, and we're going to have a look at that app. And well, going to appear in a few minutes. We create an Azure application. We create a PostgreSQL database. So we create quite a good number of resources. So it's going to take like 5 minutes.
I've recently fallen in love with Postgres again. And there's some really nice features that I know that you and I were discussing beforehand around Postgres on Azure. And one of those features is around the cost. Tell me about the new features of Postgres that you love, Julian.
Exactly. We need to talk about that. Let me just show what was generated with Postgres here. So this is Terraform code. And this is creating something new, which is called a flexible server. So in Azure, we've got like 3 different PostgreSQL instances. There's like the old classical one. Well, that still exists, but just don't use it. There's like the high availability one, which is called Citus Data. So Citus Data is a company we bought, and they're super good for very high scalability. And then there's a new version, which is Flexible Server. And Flexible Server is like the old single instance server, but it's better on everything. It scales more, so you can scale to much bigger machines. It costs less. It's more efficient. So I mean, more powerful for the same price. Everything is better. So just use it. If you go to the portal, it's already the default. And well, as you can imagine, it's going to be the default everywhere. It's still very new, and we have the same thing for MySQL. I mean, very new in production. We've been testing this for, I don't know, like 2 years. So you can use it with confidence. And yeah, really much. Oh, one thing that is interesting with regards to what we're going to do, well, next week, we're going to use VNets. So VNets, those are secure networks. That's what you want to have when you want security. But there was one issue with VNets before. So VNets are basically free, but they are only available in higher tiers of several resources. So if you were using PostgreSQL, the previous version, you need like a standard instance, something a bit more expensive. With a new flexible instance, it's available even with a lower tier. So here I'm having a very cheap PostgreSQL instance. I don't even know how much this costs, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I ran it recently over a period of months for quite a few demos, and it was less than $1, and just bring it up when I wanted to, and then you can stop it, and start it, and it's insane. And then you just have pay as you go, and then you just use it in flexible server, and it bursts out when you need it.
Yeah. So very cheap, and now you got access to VNets here also. So that's very good news for security. I hated to say that on Azure, if you wanted higher security, you need to pay for higher tier. It should be available for everyone. So that's the case now. So it's all stuff. So let's just have a look at our GitHub's action. As you see, so it builds the app. It's creating some Azure resources. We can already have a look. If I refresh, so this is my demo resource group. It only created for the month the service plan, so that's where our application will live, and then it's going to create the app and the database. What we can discuss already is Log4Shell. What's going to happen exactly with Log4Shell? What are we going to do? So if you want to have...
Give me a background a little bit to Log4Shell, because, when that happened, the whole internet stopped and there was such a huge kind of panic. So one was the response that I saw, and I'm still kind of unsure of everyone kind of came together, like tens of thousands of developers, and then they fixed the problem, and which you're going to explain though. But it was such an incredible experience to watch tens of thousands of developers coming together.
It was crazy because tons of very big companies got the issues or got hacked. Basically, you need to send a string. We're going to have a look at that string afterwards. But basically, all you need to do is have Log4j read that string. And a lot of people are reading strings that comes from users. For example, so what I just did, without paying too much attention, because I'm just logging the result of a JSON object, but that was sent by the user. So maybe the user put that specific string in it. But you could also read HTTP headers, kind of thing a lot of people have a look at. You read the HTTP header, well, there's the string in it. So there are a lot of ways to, let's say, push people to, push applications to read that string. And as soon as the string is read, then you got the bug. And so here we're going to use, let's say, a simplified version. Well, that two ways to hack it. We're going to use the most obvious one. So basically what the bug is when Log4j sees that string with GNDI. So GNDI is a, let's say, an older, I don't know, a lot of people use that anymore, but a way to find an LDAP server from your application server. And when Log4j sees that, it's going to execute it and try to contact that LDAP server. It doesn't seem very bad because you're going to say, okay, well, I don't have an LDAP server, so who cares? The issue is when you do something like what we have here, it's going to call an LDAP server that in fact exists. Those people put a fake LDAP server, and that fake LDAP server is going to read some data. And it's also, well, this one is nice. It could also send back some data.
Like a man-in-the-middle attack. So basically it intercepts your request and then just takes what it wants out of that that response.
Well, it's not exactly man in the middle. Yeah, it's like it's taking your, well, it's going to call a server just because you put that string. And so basically it does two things. It calls your server, so maybe it's going to send some stuff. That's what we're going to do now. And if you really, really mean, it can also send back some nasty stuff and execute some stuff on your server. That's the most annoying attack. Not what I'm going to do because it's more complicated. And this one is really mean. But the first one is the most obvious one, and it's enough to just show the issue. So what we're going to do here, well, let's first, we're going first to take the first string. We're going to first contact the server and see if it works. And then we're going to extract some data from our server. And that's going to be fun. So let's have a look if my server is running now. Let's refresh. Yeah, it's running. And here, yeah, everything is done. So let me just go here. I'm going to have the URL of the server. Here it is. If you want to test that server, well, you can just go to that URL and, oh, sorry, it's not deployed yet. It's being deployed. So that's the packing page from Azure. It's, oh yeah, I should have taken by default, NewGen gives you the less powerful server. I should have increased it. So it's going to take a bit more seconds to deploy. It's a very simple app, so it shouldn't take too long. So the packing page is going to be replaced by the normal server. And if we just have a look at the code, just to see what we're going to get, when you go to the to-do controller, it's going to give you a list of to-dos. And at the moment, there's nothing in the database, so it will be an empty list. So it's just to be something empty. Let's ask it again. Yeah, here it is. So it's empty. So my server is running. It's empty. Everything is good. Oh, let me use curl now, because if we want to do some fun stuff, curl is better. So, oh, sorry. My server is this one. So contact the server. And the server is running. So that's cool. Now let's create some to-dos. And for that, well, I'm going to follow my my tutorial here, so there was a tutorial on how to use PostgreSQL with Spring Boot. So let's use it. And in the tutorials, they've got test the application here. So here you can send a new to-do. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to copy that and paste it with, oh, sorry. with, of course, the right URL. So my server is this one. I created a new to-do. That's pretty cool. If I curl again, now I got it. Pretty cool. My database is working. It's looking fine. Now, let the fun begin. Now I'm going to take this, and so this is giving me like a unique URL. This one is pretty cool. And instead of sending, like here, I'm sending the details. I'm going to send my string. So that's going to be logged. And when it's logged, log4j will execute it, hopefully. Didn't do anything. Anybody could do that. Maybe some of you are doing this at the same time. Hopefully not, because you will mess up my demo. And then if I go here, view connection, oh, I got some connections.
This is so insane, Julian.
This is looking bad. And now let's do something more fun. So that was a string. What do they do? I know you like this, Rory. In that second string, they're going to ask it to execute some more stuff, like give me some environment variables. They're asking for the host name, and let's be honest, the host name isn't that fun. Because with Spring Boot, well, you know the environment variables, you already know them. It's Spring underscore data source dot password. And with that, I'm going to get probably the password. You will see my database password. That's why I will delete that afterwards. And so anybody could have done that. And when they refresh, oh, this is my database password. That's
right now, Julian. Right now, everyone is just phoning their DevOps engineer right now in every large organization and just scattering and recoding their applications after that demo.
Yeah. So it's pretty. So let me first do one thing. Let me go to the app and stop it. Oh no! Well, not no. You saw my password. I need to delete everything. Well, I'll do it afterwards. So it's really that much important for the moment. So what's happening is that you got my password. If I go to my application here, if I go to the configuration of my app, you're going to see my data source password, which is here. So it's an environment variable. That's what we got. Like anybody could have gotten here. And here, well, I can see it as a user. So here's my database password. As you see, it's hidden by default. That's nobody cares now. Everybody can see it. So we can see we've got the first issue is that my database password isn't very secured. And the second thing, well, we don't really see that right now, but we also have a network issue because currently the database is available to the internet. Why? Because when you use a database by default on Azure, if I go to my database, well, you need to access your database. So I'm going here to the database, and you need to be able to access it. There's a firewall by default on Azure that blocks everything, and you need to open up the database, the firewall. But the issue with app service, unlike with many other cloud providers, it's nothing about Azure. It's like very generic. If I want my application server to connect to my database, I need to open up the firewall for my application server. And we don't know the IP, and it's going to change all the time because it's a pool of IP. You know, you can scale up, your node can go down, and another node will be created. So by default, what everybody will do in Azure is that they're going to do what we have here. We allow public access for any Azure services within Azure. So anybody inside Azure, and as anybody can buy a VM, like anybody in the world, well, can buy a VM, run it inside Azure, so they will have the firewall open here. And so they will be able to access my database. So not only do they have my database password, but they also have network access. Perfect. Let's go to the database and steal everything. So that is very bad. And honestly, I haven't done anything wrong. I have done something very, I would say, natural for a Java developer and for an Azure ops person. And yet, I have a lot of trouble. So I see you want to...
You're going to show us how to fix this because they're waiting with bated breath right now.
Wow.
Yeah, because we have to tell them how to fix this. Like people are on the interwebs and they're going, okay, cool. Hold on 1 second. He's going to tell us how to fix it. Okay, yes, and go.
So we're going to see different ways to fix it. Of course, the first one with Log4j would be to upgrade, either not use Log4j, use Logback, or upgrade the version of Spring Boot, and that would solve the issue. So that's the easy answer. Then, that's the answer to Log4Shell, so the bug we just saw, but you could have lots of other bugs like those. Maybe there are other bugs that we don't know. And also, Log4Shell, it looks like some people knew it for like a couple of years before. There was a conference where they were talking about it before. And so, well, maybe there are some issues like that. So, we can fix Log4Shell. That's not an issue. What I want to do is to have a strategy that limits greatly that kind of issues, because maybe there are some other issues, similar issues. There will always be. I mean, the things we build are becoming so complex that there are always security issues. So what I want is to have a better strategy inside my cloud configuration to protect me from such attacks, or at least limit them. Can't be perfect, but let's not act as easy as air. Let's secure the password, and let's secure the network. So when somebody wants to attack me, it doesn't grab my password easily. And if he does, well, he doesn't have access to my database. So,
I've been reading a lot about zero trust, Julian, and the networking and network security groups and Key Vault and all of these things actually form part of this methodology to not trust an individual or a group of individuals for your password or for your access. It's basically look at multi-factor authentication, like my cell phone, and also my PIN, and also my authentication via a service principal. And then you can kind of be sure, wait, there's no password floating around though. So I love the idea that you're doing this with the VNet and the Key Vault access. Tell me, what is your kind of opinion about zero trust? Do you feel the industry is moving towards it, or is it a buzzword?
Yeah. So the idea, we're going to use zero trust to fix that issue, but the most important thing is indeed the methodology. So the idea is that we don't trust everyone all the time. We take into account that maybe we've already been hacked. Maybe I can't trust some people in the team, and let's try to protect those. So the first thing, the most obvious thing is what I was doing just before. Let's say I'm the application developer. I'm just working on that app, and honestly, that's quite bad that I can just click here and have a look at the password. Well, that should be, if we are in a big team, we have different people. That's one ops person is responsible for the database. I'm the Java application developer. Why do I have access to the database password? Maybe we can do something better than that. Of course, if I'm a really, really bad person, I can always find ways to go around security, but at least we can have some countermeasures to limit that and have some good practices so that it's not as easy as just like going and clicking and having access to everything, which is, obviously not a good idea. And while we use that methodology, which like all of Azure is using now and which is spreading everywhere, well, that's also going to secure my app more, and it will also reduce something like Log4Shell. Well, Log4Shell is not zero trust. It's not because you don't trust me. It's because I have been hacked, maybe. And maybe you should trust me, but I'm hacked, so I'm a good person, but still, I'm going to do stuff against you. So it's a very important a new methodology to secure our applications and reduce that kind of risk. Everybody has been doing like that, and we're just in right here. There are a lot of flaws in that. Maybe it's good enough if you're in a small startup and just getting started quickly, because what I did was pretty, very easy to go to production. But then maybe we need something better when, you do something more serious. So yeah, let's get started. Let's first have a look at Key Vault. And so if you want to have a look at the Learn module that Rory talked about, so there's a full Learn module on Key Vault. We're going to first use it in a simple way that is not enough, but it's just to show how Key Vault works. And then we'll use it like in the module, which is a bit more complex but more secure. The module is, in fact, the best, but it's a bit more complex. So I will first start simply and then do it more complex. So, let's take our application again. Let's keep it like that. Oh no, hang on. Let's delete it because everybody saw the password, so that's not really good.
Also, people are probably hacking your or trying to hack it with LDAP and do like an RM-R RDF and delete your whole laptop. So we had one episode where on live, we were doing a reactor session and then people were hitting it there, so we quickly kind of removed it. So yeah, maybe delete it.
Yeah, let's delete. And what I'm going to do is run nipgen again. Nipgen. Hang on. There's a specific keyword for Key Vault, so I'm going to run it again. This time with Key Vault. It's going to regenerate my Terraform configuration. We're going to have a look at it, and that new configuration has got Key Vault in it. And we're going to see the difference. Again, for this first test, it's not going to be huge, but it shows you how it works. So git add, git commit, add Key Vault, and git push. Yeah, should be all good. Usually, I like to create different branches, so I hope it's not going to mess things up. We'll see. Otherwise, I will go to another branch. Because I'm deleting a resource group and creating another one at the same moment. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Well, we'll see. So what did we do here? So if we go back to our code, we did this new thing here called Key Vault. So we're in Terraform. We've got Key Vault here. And we created a Key Vault configuration. So Key Vault is a store that can store some secrets. Well, you have three kinds of things that it can store. It can store keys in the term of private keys, for example, for security cryptography. It can store secrets like database passwords. That's what we want. And it can store also SSL certificates. Well, it can offer the same thing, just three different types of items, but it's kind of the same thing. The idea is that Key Vault is going to store those. Another person would be responsible for it. It has got fine-grained access policies. We can have a look at them right now. Here we can see I'm giving access to. So the client is in fact my Azure CLI command. So this is using the Azure command line, and it's saying, okay, the Azure command line can do set, get, list, and delete. So it can create a secret for the password, it can list it, and can delete it. And it's giving also some other permissions to my application service, so to my Java application. And my Java application has got some permissions, only get and list. So it can only read them. It cannot write them. It wouldn't make any sense that my Java application can delete or update a database password. So we can see here we've got more fine-grained access than before. We say who has access to it. It could be me with my command line. It could be the application server. And it says also what kind of permissions do you have. You can read them, you can delete them, you can update them. You can see it's already much more complex than just copy-pasting the password around. So this is all configured within Azure, and so it's going to take some time to deploy. Let's just have a quick look here. I just want to see. Yeah, it's created here. Yeah, it's creating here.
What tier did you use for Key Vault though? Because I remember there is one or more pricing tier for it. Oh
yeah, so here I'm always with the less expensive tier. So maybe that was a mistake for the app service because it takes a bit more time to deploy. So here for app service, I'm with the basic tier, so it's very slow machine. Maybe not enough for Java, honestly. For PostgreSQL,
so that's the B1. That's the B1. So the burstable app service, though. So it saves up credits, and then it actually bursts them out when you don't use them.
Yeah. For PostgreSQL, I'm using also the basic one. But for PostgreSQL, it's enough because, again, the flexible servers are very powerful. And for Key Vault, I'm using the standard tier, which is so the standard tier is the less expensive one. There's a premium one also, but here we don't need that for something like this. So here I'm with the, let's say, less expensive stuff everywhere. It's probably not costing much more than not using Key Vault. Honestly, I didn't do the calculation, but I don't think it's costing much more money. But already I've got something a bit better. But
so I estimate, what you've done there with Key Vault with that to under $10 a month, because I've run kind of that configuration before, and I get about $7 a month. But Key Vault, I'm guessing it's maybe another $3. So you can run that entire instance there for an entire month, and you can get like $7 to $10.
Well, here to be totally transparent, the main thing that will cost money, I guess, is app service for Java. But then we've got some good news for you. There's a new service called Container Apps. So Container Apps is not yet, well, it's available, but it's not ready for production. Container Apps, you can, of course, package your Java app inside the container and run it inside Container App. And I think that the lowest price for Container Apps is like $5, something like that. It's much cheaper than that. And of course, your Spring Boot apps works in it. Another good news for Container Apps, you've got access to VNet. So that's also what we'll see again next week. So probably here you can have a full, application server, database, and security with Key Vault and VNet. You can have the whole thing for, a very, very low price.
For like $5. And you get like a couple of million transactions.
Or maybe a bit more, maybe 10, but it's not going to be crazy. Yeah, very low. And this is also a configuration which is very scalable. So the database, again, with flexible server is very scalable, and Container Apps are highly scalable. You can scale up, I think by default, up to 20 instances. So this thing scales up very fast. So basically, you take the lowest and less expensive instance, and you let it scale automatically. And so you only pay when you've got traffic. Otherwise, you pay a lot less. So it's a very good news for price and performance, but also security. So it's like I'm very excited by this. So don't get me started. So let's have so the database is taking some time. Key Vault is taking some time. Let's have a look if Key Vault is created already, so we can have a look at it. No, it's not created yet. Well, I can already introduce a few things that's going to happen. So what's going to happen is that my database password, of course, will not be available in app service. Not sure what we will see here because it's not ready yet.
No, wait, it's wiring it? NoobsGen wired it?
Yes,
or did you manually wire it?
Sorry. No, NoobsGen did everything.
NoobsGen just wired it with you doing that.
I did everything. But it's not the most optimal configuration. Let me show you. So here is Key Vault. Key Vault is here. I was in the wrong research group. So Key Vault was created here. So in Key Vault, you can see we've got keys. Yeah, NoobsGen did everything. You need to use NoobsGen. And if I want to, on secrets, I'm going to go to secrets because that's what we want to do. I want to store my database secrets here. And as you can see by default, I don't have access to it. So that's what we call zero trust. I'm the Java developer. I don't have access to this. And I can't see the password. So that's much better than before when I just had to click and copy paste it. Well, here, as I'm the only person doing everything, I could grant myself the access. Of course, if you're alone, you can't do zero trust, not trusting everyone if you're alone. Of course, at some point doesn't make much sense. So yeah, I can give myself the access here and give, let's say, create a new policy, give access to reading the secrets. And here I need to find myself here. So that's what we would do, or give Rory the access. Like here now, Rory will have access to it. Rory.
I don't want to have access. Like all of the people on the interweb busy hacking that, Julian. I'm here just to ask the questions. Next thing I know, I get a call from the FBI saying, "Listen, Rory, we've got something on a video there showing you the world how to hack database passwords. You can give yourself, Julian."
So yeah, I give it to myself, but that's how it would work. So I gave it to myself. It's going to update, and then when I go back to secrets here, now I got access to it. Oh, and we can see that NoobsGen, the GitHub action finished and created the database password and username. So here they are. And if I click on it, I will be able at some point to have access to it. But as you can see, it's more.
But that will be me, admin, accessing that, not necessarily you. You playing the role of the admin.
Yes. Still getting created. And let me have a look. Yeah, it's not finished yet. It's still creating the database. Well, what we're going to see afterwards is that the database password is in Key Vault. Application service doesn't have the database password, but it's using a specific application service configuration that makes it all easy. So that's why it's quite easy, but easy is not always good. So what it does is that it uses a specific configuration of application service that is abiding to Key Vault. So you don't do anything specific, and inside the application service, you see the Key Vault values as an environment variables. So basically, I got the same issue as before. The good news is that it totally replaced the previous configuration without doing anything, which is nice in many ways, but it's not enough for what I want to do. Well, let's not waste time with this because I said it's taking some time to process. Let's
Julian, you know what I think is happening? Everyone is trying to create Postgres databases live while we're doing this YouTube video because they want to actually follow along and try and hack it there. So maybe...
Yeah, let me create another one and use Key Vault better. But this time I'm going to cheat. I'm going first of all to take higher tiers because it's also taking some time because I'm in the very low tiers, and also by default NewGen is I just remember it now. By default is putting everything in East US, everything in the data center in the US, which is far away from me, and where probably everybody is. So now I will do it in West Europe.
Yeah, they're awake now, hey? We're going to get some emails, you and I, because we work with a lot of American teams. They're going to be awake and be using those services.
Oh, very interesting point. Maybe, hang on, maybe we can see it here. Not totally sure. Sometimes when you do, it's not even doing it. After some time, when you run a Java app, it's going to show you a banner saying, be careful, there's log4j. If you use it, you need to update.
I've never seen that.
But, well, it takes some time. If you wait a bit, like there's a process, background process, saying, oh, it's a Java app.
Oh, wow.
We need to tell people. But then, we don't really scan your data. What we do is that we see that the Java app and we tell you. So the thing is a bit... that's good. I mean, it means Microsoft is not having a look at the dependencies you are using. Otherwise, it would be a bit strange. I mean, you can have this in GitHub. Like in GitHub, we've got Dependabot, which is also made by Microsoft. So here, your source code can be validated, and if you put a secret in it here, like GitHub will shout at you. That's normal. Your source code is here. That's cool. But then when you put your source code in Azure, well, we don't have a look at your source code. It's your data. So here we can only tell, oh, it's a Java app. So be careful. Maybe you got log4j. So you might have the banner, but it doesn't mean much. And it's also good that it doesn't mean much. It means we're not having a close look at your data. So yeah, let's end up this one and let's have a better usage of Key Vault. We've got 10 minutes. Do we have a lot of questions or not? Because we can take 5 minutes for the questions.
I don't see any questions right now.
I didn't see the comments. Oh, okay.
I know a lot of those comments were me putting the URLs there.
Oh, sorry.
Just one of them was, sorry to interrupt. Are you deploying, somebody arrived a little bit late and they just asked, were you deploying the Java app to AKS or on Azure String Boot?
Oh, no, it's, so we've got many ways to deploy a Java app on Azure. So this one is using App Service, which is, where is it? Here it is. So App Service is, I would say, the most basic platform as a service offering from Azure. If you want to deploy a Java app, it's probably the best way to do it. Then you can deploy it also on AKS, so Kubernetes. You can deploy it to Azure Spring Cloud. Azure Spring Cloud works very well for Spring. Everything we've seen here is true whatever the way you deploy it, because the log4shell issue is true everywhere. So we don't change anything. So I'm just using the cheapest and easiest one, but yeah, nothing would change. Well, there's one thing that would change, however, in what we just discussed about Key Vault. So what wasn't deploying fast. Maybe we can have a look again now. But for Key Vault, I was using a specific feature from, here it is. Oh, hang on, we can have a look at this. Okay, here I'm using a specific feature from Key Vault. So if we go to configuration, we can see that instead of having the database password, we still have Spring data source password. But if I go here, we see it's a link to Key Vault. So it's not, we don't see the database password anymore. So it's better than before because I can see it right now. And it's all automatic. That's what I like. I didn't have to change any code. Didn't have to do anything. More secured. So, it would be the best solution. Then there are two issues here. So first, well, to answer also your question, Rebecca, it's limited to app service because it's a specific feature of app service. On AKS, that wouldn't work. And second thing, it still puts my password in an environment variable. So my initial issue is still there. I can still be act as before. It's just a bit better, but I mean, it's very easy and no code change and basically free. So I would highly recommend that just because, you have a better solution for nothing. Then if you want to go the full way to secure everything, you need to use Key Vault for real. And that's my proposal now. Yeah, we've got 8 minutes. Let's start it now. And maybe we'll finish next week if that's fine with everyone. So for this, I need to introduce a few more things. Hang on, let me just take my code here. Sorry, let me take that code. So I'm going to do a few things. So I'm going to first introduce something new that we didn't talk about before, which is called our Spring Boot starters. So on Azure, you can do, well, what I just did. So I'm just using normal Java and nothing specific about Azure, but we've got also full SDK. And if we use our SDK typically to connect to Key Vault, well, you've got some specific features. Of course, that's the whole point of having an SDK. You've got better integration with our services. That SDK, well, we've got a Java version of it. You can use it directly. And if you use Spring Boot like me, you're in luck because with Spring Boot, we've got a specific Spring Boot starter. So if you're a Spring Boot person, it's even easier to do. So let me take that new dependency. So that's com.azure.spring group ID. So you can see this is done by us, by Azure. And that's a specific Spring Boot starter. And that specific Spring Boot starter is going to add Azure Key Vault capabilities into my application. So my application will now be able to discuss directly to Key Vault. So that's better than before. We're soon going to see that. So just another thing I need to do is for this, I need to update my version of Spring Boot. So this is, I'm already on the 2.6. Oh, sorry. Okay, I migrated everything without making, I did a mistake. Okay. I changed the branch on my other screen and I was on the same source code. So I upgraded everything with it.
You did warn us that, working on branches was a little bit difficult.
Yes.
And live demo working on branches.
Yeah. So I changed the branch without making it people. Well, let's have a look at, anyway, seeing me coding this is not very useful anyway. So let's have a look at the end result anyway. So what I did, two things here. I added my Spring Boot starter and I upgraded the version of Spring Boot. So that new version of Spring Boot doesn't have the log4shell vulnerability anymore. So that's another thing you need to do. You need to upgrade anyway. But the thing is that we need to have compatible versions between Spring Boot and the Azure starter, which is here. And well, as I was using a very old version, it wasn't compatible anymore. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no big solution here. What is important to note here is that we've got our own starter and we work with a Spring team. And everything works together. And I mean, if you go to start.spring.io, you will see we've got full support for Azure Spring Boot, for Azure on Spring Boot.
There are a lot of those starters. We have nearly 50 of them. Yeah. And anything you can think of in Azure. Now, I'm busy working on a storage starter, and I just take that storage library and pop it into my project, and it auto wires it into the storage account. And yeah, so this you've sold me on this, Julian. I like the Spring idiomatic libraries, and I really like these starters.
I do too. I mean, as soon as you want to do something specific to Azure, you need to use those. Oh, hang on. Let me do one thing before I continue. So I'm on this branch. I'm going to do an empty commit, and I'm going to push it. This is going to deploy everything like we did before. So we can talk while it deploys, and then we will have the final result without waiting too much like we just did. So it's better like that. So first thing I did is adding that library. And second thing I did is modify application service here. So instead of having my Spring Boot password here, so you remember here I had Spring data source URL, Spring data source username, Spring data source password. Well, I kept the URL because honestly that's not secret. I mean, it could be secret, but a bit useless, especially. So next week we will have our own VNet. So like nobody cares about that because it's an internal URL. But then all I said is that Key Vault is enabled, and here is the URL to Key Vault. So no password at all. That's finished.
That's a big change. Hey? All of those environment variables are just gone now.
It's just gone. So now you just can't have access to them because they're not there anymore. What's going to happen now is that my app is going to connect to Key Vault using the Azure SDK. So when the app starts, the starter. Hang on, let me do that in order. So when the application starts, so where order would be that? When the application starts, it will see Azure Key Vault enabled true. So that would trigger my Spring Boot starter here for Key Vault. That thing, what it's going to do is going to connect to Key Vault. It will have the permission to do it. We're going to have a look at how it got those permissions. And this thing is going to, merge with Azure, which means with Spring Boot, which means that in my Spring Boot application,
basically going to inject it. It's going to say, listen, you've got a dependency there. I'm going to inject it.
And it's going to inject it here. So it will be in my code. So still possible to hack it at some way because it's in the code somewhere. I mean, at some point, the database password will be in the code anyway. You need to connect the database. So, but this is much harder to get that on variables because that's really deep in the code. So much harder to get. Again, I said we're going to make things a lot harder, but not solve everything. But this is going to be much harder. So my database username, my database password will be there, sent directly from Key Vault. And also Key Vault will manage everything. So in Key Vault, you can also rotate the keys. You can do lots of other things that you couldn't do before. We were just copy pasting the password around. Now we've got a full system to update it, rotate it, monitor everything. Much better that way. And yeah, how did my database get access to Key Vault? Well, it's just a specific Terraform configuration. So if I go to Key Vault here, that's what we saw before, by the way. My application service is here. What we just said is that Key Vault has got an access policy and it's got the permission to read, those variables in Key Vault, and that's all. So we gave the permission to the application to read those values in Key Vault. We told Spring Boot to go and get them, put them in the app, and that's all. So now let's have a look at what is being deployed. And hopefully we'll have something. Let me refresh here. It's called VNet. Sorry, Spring Kiwi. Here it is.
This makes, NoobsGen, it's a great selling point. You've literally done this like a few times and it was painless. And you've just changed the configuration. You've used NoobsGen and you've just pushed it there with the GitHub actions.
I'm happy to have sold you a NoobsGen. If you want to do the same as me, just have a look. If you want to have a simple deployment, my first deployment, this is like a no-brainer. It's very easy. You just click. You can use a CLI like I did, or you can just click around here and do, okay, I'm deploying a Spring Boot web app. I'm using, this type of application, this PostgreSQL database. All of this is very easy to do, either using the CLI because it's automated or using the web app because it's, easy to read. If you want, so the first thing we did, that's very easy, very simple. Then you could say, okay, I could have done it myself, Then if you want to add Key Vault, it was Key Vault. As we saw, it's a bit more complicated.
It's just a checkbox, and then you've got it.
It's just a checkbox. If you want to do it by yourself, I can show you some weird Terraform configuration that we needed to put. Like, hang on, this one is pretty weird. So you're happy to have NoobsGen generate this for you. Here we're saying, okay, those are the database secrets, and you can only write them when the policy is set. That's because Terraform doesn't know which one to do first. So what he was doing before is like it's trying to create the database usernames before having the policy and the permission to do it. So here I needed to explain it to him. So there's honestly quite a lot of work here. If you want to have Key Vault working fine, you can, but honestly, good luck. If you go with Nubgen, it's going to be much, much faster. And then last thing about Nubgen, but that's what we'll do next week. If you want network, like a virtual private network, then good luck. This is super hard to do by hand, and here you just click around and you will get it. So that's what we'll do next week. And with Nubgen, it's very easy. My goal here is not to sell you Nubgen, is to tell you, you need Key Vault, you need VNet.
But you have to make it as exciting, though, Julian, as VNet. So you have to go back there, because this was riveting and most of the time, though. And we deleted apps, we created the apps. So you have to make it as exciting.
Oh, the last thing we didn't talk about is like we've got here add GitOps option. That's what creates my GitHub actions, that generates everything. That's why I just do git push. You see, I call Nubgen, then I do git push. It's because I've got a GitHub action that does everything.
It was very smooth when you did that.
That's what you want to have. Otherwise, I mean, you can still do it by hand, but it's going to take you forever. Yeah, it's like super easy. And yeah. Oh, and after that, it's always Terraform. So if you know Terraform, I mean, if you don't know it, learn it, because if you want to deploy stuff to Azure, the CLI, the portal, you will be limited very, very fast. So you need an infrastructure as code to like Terraform or Bicep. You know, Bicep is a new, let's say, Terraform alternative from Microsoft. Very good also. And if you want to use it, I highly recommend it. And with Nubgen, it's also just a drop-down list to select.
And you didn't tell me that. No, that's new. I didn't know about that.
It doesn't have Key Vault or VNet support yet. It will have soon. That's why it's in preview, but it will be there soon. But yeah, you need those if you want to be efficient and if you want to be able to tune things. I mean, if you have a look at all my settings, there's a lot of tuning, and you're happy to have a Nubgen generate that for you, like for app service, like we did. Okay, you want Java 11, maybe you want something else, and because it's Terraform, it's very easy here to come and change stuff if you want to change them. Much easier to have everything generated and then modify a few strings depending on your specific needs if you need to, than like clicking around and trying to find something in the portal or with the CLI. Much easier. And oh, I'm sorry, as time is running out, just let's have a look. Did we deploy yet or not? It's not finished. No, it's deploying. Okay, so it created the infrastructure, it built the app, it's deploying the app. It should be pretty fast because that time I took a more powerful machine. I don't know why it's taking so long. But we can already have a look in the portal at our configuration because it's deploying, so it's all running now. So now if I go to my application here, if I go to the configuration, well, now we don't even have the database password anymore. So, I mean, you can't hack it. It's not there.
Yeah, that makes me feel so much better. No password at all.
You just can't do anything. So, I mean, good luck with that. Of course, the passwords are still in Key Vault like we had before. So we saw it earlier. The only issue we have, and that's what we'll do next week, is that we don't have a VNet. So here, if I go to networking, we can see that anybody who has access to Azure has got access to my database. So doesn't get the password, but maybe they will find another way to get it. And it's not really good to have the database available here. By the way, I've got the same issue with Key Vault. So Key Vault, by default, if I go to networking, Key Vault is available to everyone. Allow public access from all networks. So here you can ping Key Vault from your own machine. It's secured, but wouldn't it be better to be in a specific VNet where like nobody sees the database, nobody sees Key Vault, and also when they connect to each other, I mean, it's secured connection. It's with SSL, but there is data going around in SSL. Maybe it's better to have a VNet and like nobody sees anything.
We are really popular right now, and I think that the VNet you don't have to sell it anymore. We've got 18 people who have already completed the Cloud Skills Challenge while you were talking. That's how interested they are in the next week's topic. So I'm sold on VNet and what you're going to do. I'm very curious to see if you're going to allude to some new kind of secrets. Like, I didn't know that Bicep was with NoobsGen and that you could just do that. So I'm very keen to see some of these new secrets.
Well, thanks a lot. Yeah, we're a bit out of time, and we've got 1 full hour next week to finish that. So let's finish playing next week. And please don't hack me until I delete everything. I'm going to delete that very fast.
Thank you both so much. So yeah, as we've been discussing and dropping links into the chat and pulling it up on the screen, we're here again next week, same time, same place, for part 2 of this ongoing series. So if you haven't signed up yet, please do so. The Cloud Skills Challenge, it's 3 free Learn modules, and you get possibly a prize at the end if you complete it. So thank you all so much for being a part of this. Thank you guys. It's been great. I think we had a good turnout and good, participation with that sign up. And then if you aren't part of our community yet, if you just happen to tune in from another channel, we are the Microsoft Reactor program. We put out content every week. This session and things like this, lots of tech, fun, free, accessible programming. So sign up, become a part of the program. We are on Meetup. You can find us on YouTube with on-demand content. We're on Twitter. Check us out. So until next time, guys, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. See you next week.